Okay, so what I'm doing here now is that I framed up this entire wall in from the sort of damaged old wall that's back there. There really was no framing. If there was framing, it didn't really go down to the ground, or it would do weird stuff like this, like end and then not be continuous. So we framed up a whole new wall inside of that wall. And then same thing with the roof joists that are sitting on it. So all that is new. So now what I'm doing is squaring up off of this wall to come over here to this wall and frame a new support, intermediate support wall at the center of the house. But I want to stay square to this wall. But I'm not going to pull a 3, 4, 5 triangle to make a square. I'm actually going to use, let's see, where is it? It's a Bosch tool. It's a really simple looking thing. They make it for like setting tile, or even hanging pictures or something like that. But what it does is, if you can see when I turn it on, let me lay it down here in the shadow for a second, is it'll shoot out perfect 90-degree angle there. So I use this to make the the perpendicular or parallel between this old wall and my new wall, and that's the leaking plumbing line that you hear in the background. So just try to forget you ever saw that. Block it out of your mind. So what I did first was I came over here, laid this thing down, and was messing with it, thinking, how am I going to set this up so so it doesn't go this way or that way, even though this thing holds perfect 90 degrees. It still needs to be perfectly parallel with this wall, and I know this wall is as true as it can be when I laid it out, because I used another method of lasers and strings to get this wall perfectly straight. So I know that's good, but beyond it being perfectly straight, I want to be perfectly parallel to it with my other interior wall here, because that's going to be the opposite side of the room as that other partition wall. So I actually used that Bosch tool, and then I used my where'd it go? In the back room? No. Use my framing square on the ground over here, still in place from when I did the line back over here to that side of the wall. So let me grab this. And this just helped out staying square, just within the distance of the framing square itself, because I just want to get a consistent measurement off this bottom plate to make a straight line that then I can set my laser to. And I do that just because I need space off the wall to adjust this laser. It doesn't work if you push it right up against the wall, because the laser is way out here, so you have to be at least that far away from the wall. So I just generally picked 10 inches, also because I thought if I needed to snap a line, I've got I don't know if you can see it down there in the distance right now, there's an existing toilet flange that is going to come out, but it's sort of in the way. So I didn't want it to be in the way of like a laser line if I sent the laser that far down. Anyway, so where's my mark? So what I did was just push this right up against the new framed wall, came down to 10 inches, marked it, did the same thing down there, took this level put it up against the wall so it's square, and then I marked it at 10. And then I came back with my laser here and went between the two with that mark. So I lined the laser up with that mark here, and then I worked it so that down there on that mark, which you sort of can't see, I worked it so it's in the center. So I just play with this thing, you know, back and forth like this until it's good, and it goes through that mark at the other side of the wall, which is at the other side of this room. So what that does is then it sent a perfectly perpendicular line down this way to that wall, which you can see right there. And so now I've squared up, at least what I've done is I've squared up this line to this wall and sent a perpendicular line down to that wall where it can be measured. So now it's measured, or it's marked on this wall, but now I need a measurement off that wall. So right now this partition wall, this supporting wall is really damaged. Let's see, there's like severe termite and water damage in that corner. Like I could push that in with my hand if I wanted to. Things are sort of like are leaning this way. Let's see if you can better see it. Yeah, you can sort of see like perfectly straight is maybe like that line, but then you look at that and it's off. That one's even further off. And nothing is continuous. We see like where the original joist is, it comes down and then it's over and down to that, but then the actual continuation of the load goes over that way and then down. So you can see it's not too bad, but like you can see where the load has really settled over the years. And this place is really old, but you can see just the impacts of what it could, of load, what it can do, even though it's just a foot off over that many years. So that's why we're replacing or building a new framed wall down this way. So we needed to get a parallel line struck, you know, something that's parallel to that wall over there, so everything turns into a 90 when we're done. So what I did was I picked a measurement off the wall here. I don't know, what is it, like 5 inches or something like that. And that way it gives me a space between this wall and my new 2x4 wall. It gives me a little bit of clearance, so that if any bit of this wall further down the line does something, goes out this way or that way, I have at least like an inch or inch and a half to play with. So nothing like runs together and then you run out of room, so you have to sort of pull off one wall. So I came over here and I just chose that measurement, 5 inches, and then I made a mark right there, which you can see when I put my finger down, that line disappears, which it's right in line with that mark. So I did the same thing with my with the framing square. Came over here and I put the corner right where the laser hits, and then I came out here to find, you know, where is that laser, and then I had to pivot, you know, until I see, yeah, the laser is lining right up with the edge of that framing square. It's hitting that corner. So then I can use my framing square again just to measure too. So I picked 4.5 inches and made a mark. So then what I did was I took my tape measure from that mark all the way down to where that laser is. And the nice thing about having that laser on is you can take your tape measure. Sorry for the fumbling around, but working the tape measure. So you can take the tape, and if you're unsure about, if, you're right, am I in line with the tape, am I not, you can watch, you watch the end of your tape. When it does hit that laser, you'll see it cross the laser, and it'll just get red for a second. You can't see it in this light right now, but then you, from that laser point, come back over here to the other end of your tape measure, and you mark that distance, whatever that distance is. So 109 3/4 is what I'm on right now, and I think I'm not exactly on here, because yeah, I'm an inch off here, because I can't see the laser right now, but there, you're right in line with that. Come back over here, and this is what it was earlier. It was 107 3/4. So that's your measurement that you want to keep in mind at all times, is 107 3/4. So you take that measurement, and then you come down here to your next point that you marked. We marked to begin with our framing square on our 10 inches right there, and you can again take your tape measure. And what I did to do another double check beyond just measuring it, because you can't just take this tape measure and measure 107 3/4 from that mark, over, because you're not pulling perpendicular. You could be pulling this way or that way still. So you need to move that laser over to this point now. And do what you did. Repeat the process that we did down there. So you just shoot back. You get lined up with that mark. Make sure you're running the laser through, I don't know where it is, through the mark down there, which it is. And then now you can again take your tape measure take your tape measure, set it up so it just crosses your laser. Let's see. So it's just crossing my laser right there. And so I came down here and I made a mark. So 107 3/4. So I know I'm following my laser. I'm just running right beside it, pretty much the same distance, off of the laser point. There's maybe 2 inches in between there, so I maintained about 2 inches there. And then I made my mark on the ground. So right now I've got I basically have a perfect box with 90-degree corners here, from this corner to that corner, from that corner to that corner over there. So that's perfectly square in this room. And then all I did to continue that down is I repeated the process again. I came down here, picked up the laser, and I chose a spot in this room I needed to get past that to put down my framing square up against that wall. And I actually, for this one, let's see, for marking this line before we snap this chalk line, that wasn't there. That chalk line is derived finally after you work your way. After I worked my way all the way down to the end of the room, which you could have done. You know, you could have just marked that one, your starting point, and then your ending point down there, and then snap the line between, between the two lines. But because this is its own room, and that's its own room, and this wall is so squirrely, I wanted to be sure, just do a double check. So I took multiple measurements through that laser line. Hey Mac, I'm making a video.
Oh.
Teaching people how to do layout with this laser thing.
Oh yeah, for right angles.
Yeah.
Super.
So then what I did was I took this, and because I couldn't see really well, I took these blocks because I couldn't see this mark that I made on the floor. So I took this block, I lined it up with that mark, and I actually put a straight line on it with my square. Lined it up with that mark on the ground, and then came back down here, got in line with this mark that I made. Actually, I mean, I first did that line and then came back down here, but for visual purposes, you can see my laser moving on that back down there. That's how I got that lined up. So I lined it up with that block, lined it up with this mark, and then just kept on doing that same thing all the way down the room until I got back down here to that point. And each time I made a mark on the wall, with going through that laser, I would check back to see if I actually, I'd mark 10 inches off that wall, and then use that 107 3/4, and it was always 107 3/4. Anyway, I hope that helped, maybe, or maybe it confused you.